him to say not guilty for the entire charge. And of course, Diddy's team is going to be like, of course you have to tell him not guilty for the entire charge. She lied. She made Diddy seem way more violent and capable of some type of violence, which is dangling somebody off the balcony, which if someone is in the jury, they might be able to reasonably assume, well, if he would dangle somebody over the balcony, maybe he would blow up somebody's house. Maybe he would try to shoot somebody. Maybe he would do this and third, or yeah. So they're going to have that argument. I don't think it is going to be successful, but at least it's going to raise enough questions that if this goes to appeal, which if Diddy gets convicted, obviously he's going to go to appeal, they could at least bring that back up to say, yo, my man got convicted when it was understood, and the judge and the prosecutor basically assumed that, or not assumed, but he admitted on the record that what this person said was false. Now, did they intend to be false, or did they make a mistake? That's something else. So that's going to happen eventually, that argument.
Motion, a directed verdict would mean that the defense is going to say, before we start our case, we'd like the judge to come in and decide that one or more of these charges, that he's going to direct a verdict, an acquittal.
Wait, what's going on with the chat? Somebody said that, wait, what? Are we having streaming issues? If we're having streaming issues on YouTube, usually that just means refresh. Just refresh it. Okay? Yeah, if you're having any streaming issues on YouTube, just refresh, okay? Apologize.
In favor of the defendant, saying that no reasonable jury could possibly convict based on the evidence that was presented. Now, when you're defense counsel, you bring that motion, you do not expect to win it. Everyone expects that the judge is going to deny the motion, but it's a necessary step so as not to commit malpractice, because at some point later on, it becomes an appealable matter. If something gets knocked out, it's just a lot of bases to try, and there's only upside in bringing a motion under Rule 29, and there's no downside. So the judge has anticipated that. There's a lot of time for that, which is supposed to be on Wednesday. Excuse me, that should be tomorrow. And then after you finish that tomorrow, then we're going to have on Wednesday, we'll have the defense case. And then on Thursday, we're supposed to be going right into closing arguments, which are supposed to be 4 hours apiece. 4 hours apiece.
I think that makes sense. 4 hours for closing statements, a huge case. I think we've seen a lot here that both could sink their teeth in, no pun intended, to be like, yo, as y'all have seen, this case is bullshit. You have two women who have buyer's remorse, who basically, I've showed y'all on multiple exhibits and multiple text messages, their own admission. They wanted to do these things. They leveraged using sexual acts to try to get and curry the favor of Diddy. They were enjoying all the benefits of it. They were allowed to leave. They were told to leave if they felt uncomfortable. Diddy even said to Jane Doe specifically, you should go do other shit. They refused to leave. They liked the bag. They liked the shit that was going on. Cassie was like, I'm going to do freak offs with you because I don't want you to do it with anyone else. At that point, what could Diddy do? So that's going to be their it's going to take 4 hours, but they're going to hammer that home. Prosecutor is going to hammer their shit home. I would love to hear what the prosecutor's like. I can't wait to read the transcript for that, because I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not saying Diddy, right now I see Diddy getting convicted of the prostitution charges, 5 years. Like I see him getting 5 years, 5 to 10. Okay. I don't see him getting 20 years or life, which would be the RICO charge. And that's the important thing about it, right? Anyway.
8 hours straight. 4 hours for the state, 4 hours of defense on closing arguments that are supposed to be set for Thursday. Then they're going to be charging the jury on Friday. Now, to me, another really interesting question, and they already started to anticipate there are going to be serious conflicts about the charging instructions. This is an element which I think a lot of the public tends to underestimate the incredible significance as to the language that's put into charging instructions. Because when you're breaking down what the jury needs to find, the language that you choose can very easily be interpreted as being all the difference in the world for a jury as to whether or not they feel a particular element, which is a necessary element to establish conviction, has been met. And obviously the lower the standard, or the broader the standard that the judge allows for meeting a particular element, the more likely it is that the jury will unanimously find that that element was met. So there will be a lot of haggling between the state and defense about some of the elements here, likely with respect to what's considered force and coercion under 18 USC 1591, what the jury is allowed to consider, and there's a number of different elements here, which I'll try to break down for you further, which we can anticipate they're going to be hotly contested, and a decision by the judge on one way or the other can have a serious impact as the outcome of this case, which I'll tell you right now, I think a lot of these charges can go either way. That's where we're at right now. Tomorrow, as I said, tomorrow is when I'm expecting.
Okay, so, we're pretty much fast forward into today. They put it on a government witness. They were supposed to read quickly into exhibits, which is supposed to be today for Diddy. And here we go. It look like they're doing it. Let's go into what's happening today. So this is today in the trial. Let's go to the beginning, right? Okay. All right. This is before the jury comes in. Gustavo says, as we submitted overnight, we think this is relevant. Cassie's sex messages to Mr. Combs about what she wanted to do. Johnson says there were acts with Mr. Combs. These are acts with Mr. Combs in his office. They're simply just not relevant. The U.S. objection is sustained. Okay, so they're basically saying that, yeah, we're not saying every sex with Diddy Cassie wasn't down with. Cassie wasn't down with the hotel nights, the freak-offs, which happen in usually hotels under pseudonyms, where there were masquerade, baby oil, and sex workers. So if she came to the bad boy office and sucked his dick, while he's at work, she probably was down with that. Like, she's not saying she ain't down with that. She wasn't down with sex workers back to back to back, piping her out. And then, cool. So the objection was sustained, and then the judge says here, Mr. Combs is inquiring into what Ms. Ventura was doing, and she replied, I'm trying to be a little freak. AUSA says, well, Ms. Ventura is asking Mr. Combs for an explicit photo of himself, so it's about her boyfriend, okay? So they're overruling the objection with that. So if you don't not understand what's going on, the AUSA is trying to say, we don't want things in this case that makes it look like they're having some consensual shit. Because what we're bringing up is not the consensual shit. Yeah, we're down with saying that not every single time they had sex, she was not with it. We're saying the freak-offs she was not with, right? So anything that they're kind of flirting or something that didn't happen in the hotels, the prosecutor say, no, that's not admissible because that's not part of our case. We don't care about that, right? Stavio says, Ms. Ventura writes that she bought baby oil because she just couldn't stop herself. She was buying baby oil on her own. AUSA Johnson says, we don't dispute she wanted to have sex with her boyfriend. Judge says the baby oil purchase seems like it's for a freak-off, okay? So, yeah, they're arguing about what could be, mentioned or considered. Estavio says, they said Mr. Combs drugged people to make them do freak-offs, but here he's canceling a freak-off because she's feeling sick. Johnson says there's no evidence the freak-off was canceled. She wanted to have sex with her boyfriend. The judge says, all right, hold on, let's hold off. AOC Johnson says in this one, Combs asked her if she could do a freak-off without taking drugs. She says yes. It's being offered for the truth. It's hearsay. The judge says, I overrule the objection. Johnson says here, she says, I want my bank account to be right. Oh, damn. Cassie looked like Cassie was almost damn near saying, yeah, I'm doing these things, but I need to be rich off of this shit, right? Which kind of goes into the idea of work, right? Stavio says, this is Ms. Ventura demanding money. It's a command of sorts, not hearsay. Judge says, how is this relevant? It goes into her financial motive. Judge says, her financial motive in 2017. He says, I sustained the objection to 1135 on hearsay and 403 grounds, okay? Johnson says, here's the last one. It's 1417. It's about Ms. Ventura decorating a hotel room and getting flowers on Valentine's Day. Stavio says, this is sex trafficking freak-off as alleged by the government. This show, Miss Ventura set it up as a surprise to Combs. Just as this is hearsay, I'm sustaining the objection, but the defense can use her being presented with the layout of the room, the flowers, and the photo could come in with the messages. Yeah. They bring the jury in, okay? And they ask for a restroom break for seemingly Diddy. They come back. They say, Your Honor, our arguments took so long that the jurors' devices turned themselves off. Judge says, they are high tech. All rise. Garrigo says, good morning. Pull up 1406 from December 2021. Jane Doe, Don, and Cabral. It says, turn off the attorney screens. We're going to watch some videos. Play from the beginning until 2 minutes and 22 seconds. Public and press have no idea what's being shown. And it says one juror complains that their device has low battery. It says, what does she say here? And then the agent says, remember their agent is still on the stand. Says she writes, that was so fucking sexy. Garrigo says, then she writes, I'm wet thinking about it, with the heart eye emojis. Now, Paul in the chat, right? But your chart doesn't say or list Cabral's message with Jane. Let's see this other exhibit. So now it's December 2021, and she reaches out to Cabral to say Happy New Year and writes, let me know if you want to come tonight. What does Cabral say? Cericello says, he says, I'm cooking for the family, but tomorrow, sure. Garrigo says, why is that not in your chart? Remember, these charts are summary charts to basically sum up the government's case, but they're not doing Diddy any justice by having anything that might make him look innocent or help exonerate him, right? Garrigo says, under Italian, let's see the da. Okay, it says, they've been writing, I've been having crazy fantasies about Leo. You and Leo. So Combs write that. So Diddy says to Jane Doe, I've been having crazy fantasies about you and Leo. Okay? Sorello says, he writes, Adderall is the greatest. Garrigo says she writes to him with a drool face emoji. Then in 1406, which is July 2022, so you only review what the government gave you, right? It says yes. It said Combs tells Paul to come over, right? Yes. So here Jane says, my place is free tonight. Then she writes, I got on my knees and thank God for the health of my child and for your friendship. Then heart eye emojis, right? Right. So I'll correct you. It's Venice, okay? Look like they're talking about an airport. Well, there's a private jet airport there, but it's also a place in California. Combs Garrigo says, is GX 103 between Paul and Jane? He says, I don't remember the exhibit numbers. It's all right, cool. Let's just show it. Don't do it public, but just show these messages. Is this message between Paul, author, and Combs, who says his staff is leaving? Garrigo continues to say, this is the first mention of Anton, right? October 8th, 2022. So yes, he shows up. And these photos, E285, do you see a bracelet she's wearing? It says, I do. Garrigo says, Jane writes, can you come to Turks? What does he say? He says, yes, love, I have a passport, but I don't have vaccination. Garrigo says, by the way, in 2022, I know it was like COVID and shit. You needed a vaccination to go, right? Wow, I forgot. She said, can you get in Atlanta? Cabral's base. It says, a few days later, she asks about Miami, right? So this is Jane Doe writing to Diddy. So Jane writes, tonight was fun. What does he say? He says, had a great time with you, baby. Garrigo says, in April 2023, Jane, Combs, and Paul, he says, hey, Jane, true name, which is Daphne. Hey, Daphne, I'm available. And she asks about the 19th. So, Paul says he's available. Jane asks about the 19th. Garrigo says, Jane says, I'll reach out. How about P? I guess, how about Diddy? He says, Idol is available. So what does Diddy respond? He says, Combs says, okay. Did you find a location? Are you in the mood? Garrigo says, Jane says, I don't know if you're unsatisfied. I stopped and got a couple more outfits. Jane then says, I know what you like, Daddy. At the London, before you left for New York City, you did a film. You forgot it. You promised you wouldn't forget. Then there was a smirk face and a devil face. He says, I'm coming, Daddy. That video you sent me was hot. Garrigo says, let's go back to GX 1406, May 19th to the 20th in 2023. Said this was Jane, Combs, Paul, and Cabral. What does Combs write? He writes, is the chef still there? She says, no, LOL. Garrigo says, pull up the text message of the personal assistants. Sorelli says, I don't know who. I guess don't know which one. It says, Ms. Karam writes, for the hotel, they want fruits, outfits, shorts for him, size large, fruits and juices. She writes, are you hydrated? I'll be at the one hotel, residential side. Says, hey, hon, I had a great time. Do you see that? Agent says, yes, I do. Garrigo says, here Jane writes to Mr. Combs, I love you. I can't wait to see you with heart eye emojis. But now she writes, let's be positive. Remember how we turned around 1 star, right? He says, right. Garrigo says, he says, you got a chef. Jane says, no. Jane then says, you know, is trying for my chefy poo. Garrigo says, Jane writes, are you up to coming to LA? How much would it be to compensate for a missing chef gig? He responds, sorry, love, I could have did it with enough heads up. Garrigo says, Mr. Combs writes, hurry up, she's at a hotel. She is horny as hell, need help, LOL. Paul responds, LOL, right? So Diddy hits up this sex worker and says, she's at the hotel, she's horny, and I need help. So he's admitting he needs help to, like, you know, satisfy her, you know? Okay. Hold on. There's a freshman list. Give me a second. I got to post the freshman list. Okay. All good. All right. Cool. All right. And Combs sends a Paul an image. It says, does it look like Shaq? Yes. And the judge says, may we have a brief sidebar. They're back from the sidebar. Okay. The judge said, we're taking a break. They said this cross is going longer than was projected yesterday. Will they go into defense case today? Why are the public exhibit screens left off? Okay. They're back. This is 11:56, right? So now we're going. Sean Combs is in a brown sweater. He's poring over a document with his lawyer, Nicole Westmoreland. Then he stands up to talk to Agnifilo. Said, all rise. Garrigo says, you're back to 1406. Mr. Combs writes to Paul, security knows to let you in the back, right? Garrigo says, Combs says, just say P, not Paul. Jane writes, just to tell you I love you, listen to your music and make in love with you. Parte, rose, whatever we were saying, back to 1406. He writes, movie night was off the chain. She says, so we try something new tonight? He says, call Italian. She says, one hotel roof, good for drinks and light bites. Smiley face, kiss face, right? She says, the agent says, right? He says, baby, I'm stressed out. Garrigo says, she says, I'm back to mommy mode. Okay, so now September, oh yeah, I can't see it. September 19th, 2023. So that's correspondence to many chats we looked at yesterday. So pull up 1407, not by one. Go to page 48. We want to highlight a few that I don't think we were, that were in the chart. DX 3187, Combs right, headed to ATL. By the way, if you're confused by what's going on here, they're just trying to show the summary witness is not being fair. The summary witness by the government is only putting in things to summarize the case that makes Diddy look bad. And they're not being fair. And, you know, obviously the government's making their case. You're not going to make the case that you're innocent. They're saying that we're going to enter in and confirm some exhibits that make Diddy look way more innocent, right? So cool. So Combs right, I can't even look at it. It will drive me crazy. Jane writes, muy caliente with a sweating face. Said the shit was different, all of it. That was September 24th, right? It says, yes, this was a message saying we had a great DAW, D-A-W. What's D-A-W? D-A-W. Jane writes, Daddy want to see mommy be bad tonight, right? Slide that dick in me at the restaurant. No water. Emojis, right? Huh? This is Daphne talking to Diddy. The agent says, yes, that's what she says. Garrigo says, then she writes, I'm going to blow your mind today. I can't wait to lick your nipples. So now we get to find out Diddy likes nipple play. He likes women putting semen on his nipples. He likes his nipples licked. Diddy likes to lick nipples. Or get his nipples licked, or he likes play with his nipples, right? Garrigo says, Jane sends more emojis that were drooling. She writes, it's sexy here in the hotel. You need to run to the freak store. Let's skip ahead to 55. She writes, I didn't have time to do my nails. And what does he says? He says, I fucking love it. Garrigo says, let's quickly look at this. This is just Jane and Combs. He says, okay, correct. It says line 913, September 30th. Jane writes, I love you, baby. Have a great show. I won't repeat here. There are no location entries until February 8th. Let's keep it going. Garrigo says, Christina Karama asked Jonathan Perez, how does he look? He said, you could put him in front of someone, but he just took a full bar, so I think he'll be asleep soon. Now we could turn off the public screen. So they're talking about the drug use that Diddy has taken. Garrigo says, here you have flight records for Jane going from LA to Miami 5 days before Combs posted post-IG video, right? It says, right. So now a phone call from Anton and Jane, which is 0 seconds. What does that mean? The clock, that's a clock when it starts ringing. Okay. So essentially, we haven't gotten to the state's case yet, or not state case, the defense case. Here we are, though.
Today, Tuesday, June 24th. It's day 29 of the U.S. versus Sean Combs trial, and we're going in to cover it. Today, the defense case should begin. It should begin. The cross-examination of the U.S.'s final witness, Agent Cerciello, will continue. There were a lot of explicit videos shown. There were a lot of exhibits not shown on the screen yesterday. And today we'll finish, apparently, with an hour and 15, according to Tenny Garrigos, who's ended up doing most of the cross-examinations in this case. Then the jury will be let out for a bit for a Rule 29 motion. This takes place in every single trial once the government rests. The judge will rule on it. He's already sort of predicted. Again, you can't say. The odds of Rule 29 being granted seem quite low to me. But you just never know. And then the defense case will begin. But it's going to be short. And it seems that tomorrow will be the charge conference, i.e. deciding on what the jury will be told and on the verdict form. And then on Thursday, closing arguments. The big issue now is whether the jury will actually reach a decision before July 4th, which also includes July 3rd. So basically they'll have next week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday to reach a verdict. Can they do it? Will they do it? We'll just have to see. We'll be there every day, reporting on the notes, if any, that they pass out, and etc. So we're covering this.
So we're getting to realize that they're taking off July 3rd as well.
Which also includes July 3rd. So basically they'll have next week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday to reach a verdict. Can they do it? Will they do it? We'll just have to see. We'll be there every day, reporting on the notes, if any, that they pass out, and etc. So we're covering this all the way. The week 6 books is out on Google Play, and week 7 is already underway after one day of week 7. So before getting to the courthouse, let me say, today is election day here in New York City. Primary.
Okay. So we kind of get what is kind of going on a bit. All right. So they're kind of dragging it. It's really Diddy's team. Like, they're dragging this idea of trying to read things into evidence.
Because I got such a great guy.
Did they do lunch yet? No?
Presented this in any case.
Okay, we haven't had that yet. Okay, so they're dragging it a bit. And let's go look at Unk. What's Unk's channel? Soul G. They're a bit dragging it that Diddy's team want these things to be read into y'all got a chart that makes Diddy look bad, but let's just keep bringing up Jane Doe wanting to have free coughs, Cassie wanting to have free coughs. Like, they want, like, that's going to be the constant back and forth consistently. Here we go.
Hold up, I gotta go get my, I left my, and shake down the cell, but they would say, make sure you go shake down Puffy's cell. And after he had already met with his legal team and had notes, the COs went in took pictures of his notes detailing his defense strategy and gave it to the prosecution before the trial. And Alexander Shapiro talked about that. I got the paperwork.
That must have been before.
Don't play with me. Alexander Shapiro.
Yeah, we kind of heard about that before.
Man that helped you. Period. If it was me, I would have brought, as a defense witness, Young Miami.
Nah, you can't. Yo, chat, I agree with this. I agree with Diddy's not bringing no one to the stand. I agree with it. You're going to introduce more people and open up a can of worms that you don't want to. At the end of the day, they came with two victims. Cassie and Jane Doe. Yes, I do know Mia claims she was a victim too, but there's no charge for Mia. Actually, there is under the RICO Act for some forced labor and some bribery, I think. Capricorn Clark, I get it. But you don't want to bring more people that could possibly testify to, oh, nah, me and him did go to Turks after he beat the shit out of Jane Doe. Yeah. Did you notice that he had a cut on his face too? Like you don't want to open up a can of worms, right? Because again, some of these things, like the government isn't going to just be like, oh, that's your witness, so we're just not. No, they're going to use Young Miami to corroborate things. Hey, Daphne said he fought with her or she fought with him after she got fed up with doing these freak-offs, and then he ran to so-and-so with you. What did you guys do over there? Did you guys have sex workers? Did you notice that Diddy had a scratch on his face because she was fighting back and she told him no? You don't want to open those can of worms. Not saying none of that happened. I'm just saying you don't want to open those can of worms, right? Like, no. Well, it's going to look bad for you to put anybody on the stand to try to normalize, to only help him, not to hurt him, only help him, but normalize this sexual perversive behavior, this sexual deviant behavior. It's going to look just incredibly bad. So I understand why all these, the only thing I could have seen if somebody was going to take the stand is maybe bodyguards. And the bodyguards may have testified, hey, I was around both of them. They were both violent. Oh, well, did you see her crying? Did she ever tell you she never wanted to do this? No. Actually, everybody was telling her, yo, you should go home. If you say Diddy keep putting his hands on you, go home. Why are you here? She would tell us she's here for the bread. I could see a bodyguard that's for Diddy going up there and saying that, but you still open yourself up to too many things. The prosecutors laid it out. You know what they said? Yo, what did you tell D-Rock? What was D-Rock trying to do here? Why was he hitting you up after the lawsuit? Why did he say he want to drop something off to you? You don't want D-Rock on the fucking stand having to answer to those questions, right? Because after a while, it's going to look like he's just up there completely lying, or his statement is just not going to help Diddy.
Some of Puffy's other honeys, and I would have put them honeys on the stand for them to say, yo, he ain't never treat me like that. I don't know what they talking about. I don't know what Cassie the rat is talking about. I don't know what Jane Doe the rat is talking about. I would have brought definitely some of the other women that I was dealing with.
No, you definitely don't do that. I'm telling you, the reason why you don't do that, chat, is going to be, you got to remember, whether these women are thinking they're for Diddy or not, what the prosecutor is going to say is, hey, have you done these type of things with Diddy? And maybe they'll say no, which is like you're irrelevant at that point. But if you've been like, oh no, like first of all, what woman wants to get up there and admit that she's having sex with multiple other dudes for Diddy and then claim, oh no, I do it because I like it. Like no woman wants to do that, right? It's embarrassing. But okay, imagine somebody does. The prosecutor doesn't need them to turn against Diddy. They could still use him against Diddy. Hey, when did you start doing these freak offs with Diddy? Hey, is it true that you were behind on your bills for this amount of time? Is it true? What was your job at this point? Is it fair to say that Diddy was the only person that was financing you and you relied upon him for your bills, your rent, and such forth? Do you get what I'm saying? There is a way that even if these people think they're helping Diddy, the prosecution could actually paint them out as, oh, these are also other people who are stuck in the cycle of abuse, who don't realize it's abuse yet, but they're admitting the same things. Hey, these type of behavior started when I needed him for money. Hey, has he ever given you something and taken it back? Has he ever told you that you have to do this for this to happen? Did you ever feel like you could leave? Right? And maybe they answer some of those questions right, but you could ask them in an interesting way where it looks like they're a victim as well, even if they're for Diddy. You don't want to put nobody else. Again, unfortunately, this type of freaky behavior, there's no way to normalize it. There's no way to normalize it. And the more you keep throwing it in the face of the verdicts, it's not going to normalize it. They're just going to be like, oh, maybe you're like Cassie in 2014. If they want to believe that's how Cassie was, right? Like, oh, there was 10 years that Cassie thought this was normal. So if Diddy brings someone else like, hey, she's been having freak offs and she ain't saying nothing, they're going to just hit her with the same psychotherapist shit.
Put them on the stand. I would have brought another psychiatrist to rebut everything that Dr. Dawn Hughes said.
I agree with that one. I do agree with that one. And not only do I agree with that one, the idea of not bringing any witnesses. Now, granted, it's witnesses. We don't know if it's expert witnesses. Like, for example, remember we heard at the beginning of the trial that Diddy was going to go with this defense that says, you know, it wasn't insanity, but it was insanity adjacent. Basically saying, we're going to go off the idea that Diddy was a drug addict that was, yes, he was completely under the influence of drugs for years. He didn't sex traffic, but if we see some of these violent outbursts where he's, you know, having super hot and cold moments, anger issues, he's maybe putting hands on somebody, not saying it's right, but he's not charged with that, but we could explain it with our own psychologist. He was under the influence, and it's kind of like he wasn't responsible for his own actions. So don't look at him like this monster, right? Don't look at him like a monster. But they're not bringing their own psychologist from what we know now. But they should have, because they submitted a whole motion to try to, you know, a pretrial motion for that to be considered as something that they could go along the route with.
You know, but after I thought about it, right? And after being in the courtroom, in the overflow, every day on the 24th floor, I thought about what I heard. I thought about what I saw. Because what I heard and what I saw, the jury heard and the jury saw. And it's a hell of a strategy. It's a hell of a strategy and a psychological chess move to the jury to say, look, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
We ain't got to present nobody. We ain't got to present nobody because the prosecution, everybody that they put up, we destroyed them. Everybody that they put up had an immunity deal. Everybody that they put up was suing Puffy for millions of dollars. Everybody that they put up lied. Everybody that they put up met with the prosecutors 27 times. 24 times, 8 times, 11 times, 14 times. Everybody that they put up
Rehearsed.
gave you compelled testimony in an effort to further their own personal agenda with their own civil suits. Breonna Bogelin suing Puffy for $10 million. Dawn Richard suing Puffy for $6.5 million. Mia suing Puffy for $10 million. Jane Doe, who's a cooperator and a rat, she ain't sued him yet. She ain't sued him yet, but let him get convicted and her suit gonna come down. So I think it's a good strategy. I think it's a good strategy to say, hey man, we did our thing. We busted this girl perjuring herself on the stand in front of a judge who allowed it to go on. If I was the judge, and I don't know if I'm able to as a rule as a judge, but the minute that perjury came out, I would have admonished the witness and the prosecution and told them, based on the testimony, you have perjured yourself, and I am going to do an investigation into the evidence, and I will be pressing charges against you and holding you in contempt of court for this perjury, to let it be known on the record that me as a judge to respect my name and to protect my reputation as a judge, because Judge Submarini's reputation right now is that he's soft. He's soft. You could go in his courtroom, you could lie. You could go in his courtroom, you could misrepresent facts. You could go in his courtroom and commit perjury. You could go in his courtroom and leak evidence, and he ain't gonna do nothing because he weak. That's what his behavior, his performance has indicated to the world. A more senior judge would have been like, yo, you perjured yourself? Did you? Oh, you finna go to jail. Let me do an investigation. So that's how I feel. That's how I feel about it. That's how I feel about it.
I'll disagree with him on that. I've been hearing really positive and strong things about Submarinian. I see in the title here, it says Submarinian only has 2 years experience, but I hear he's really fair, though. I hear he's really fair.
Corpus and a right to due process in court. And you know what I'm saying? That's what it was supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? What you want from me? What you want from me, man? I'm gonna go back up here. I want to hear the closing arguments.
Yeah, the closing arguments won't happen till tomorrow, I believe. Well, actually, no, it's happening on Thursday. So it's not even tomorrow. Okay. Let me... oh, yeah. This is what I meant to watch.
A juror was suddenly removed, explosive texts were revealed, and
this morning in court, he said, you know, I understand it's important, but this amount of scrutiny is not necessary. And I think it kind of had to do with just the letter that the defense had, just kind of accusing the prosecution of dismissing this particular juror, mainly based off race and just other accusations from the defense to the government. And so as far as what the judge said, he said the inconsistencies from this specific juror raised a lot of issues. And pretty much these inconsistencies were just about where this particular juror lived. So he was registered in Bronx County. He picked up the call to serve on this jury from Bronx County. However, there was this kind of this statement that was made to a jury staff member, just kind of out of jest from this particular juror, where just he had mentioned something along the lines of, oh, the traffic from New Jersey is crazy, or, oh, I just had to travel all the way down from New Jersey, which kind of signaled to other staffers, okay, what's going on here, given that you're a juror from Bronx County, or specifically from the Bronx. And so what ended up happening is the judge brought this particular juror back in the robing room, or judge's chambers, and spoke to this juror just about what was really happening, and spoke to him about a couple of times here. So it wasn't just a one and done type of situation, Jesse. It was something that had been mulling over for a couple of days. And so the judge ended up going back and looking at the record pretty closely. So he reviewed the transcript from the robing room, but also he went back even further and looked at just some of the questions and answers from the jury selection process. So the judge said that there were inconsistencies and clear inconsistencies from voir dire, which is jury selection, and the robing room conversations. And the judge had serious concerns about this particular juror's candor and how the juror might have just kind of skewed
Wait,
his...
why the fuck are we listening to the juror talk? No, that's the 22nd. No, no, my bad, Jack. My bad. Yes, so there was a whole other issue with another juror. No, I need it for yesterday. Okay.
All right, welcome back, everybody. So we have with us Elizabeth Milner.
Sorry.
Let's get into more substantive questions. This is from Shady Goat. How is Diddy in court today? And were there any suspect looks that he might have given towards the jurors? Because he can't be trusted.
Well, definitely as far as Diddy's demeanor goes today, he was doing kind of what he's usually been doing, jotting notes down, talking to his attorneys, all of that stuff. There are a couple moments, especially when the sexually explicit videos were played specifically to the jury. Obviously, we weren't able to see those. They were under seal. And so I was seeing him kind of peek over at their direction because they played those explicit videos for a long amount of time. I think longer than whenever the summary witness was talking about the Cassie summary exhibits was playing for that amount of time. But for these specific videos, I did see him kind of peeking over here and there, especially because of the duration and how long they were playing. Plus, it was super quiet inside that courtroom when they were playing those videos. Literally, you could hear a pin drop. It was just that quiet. But again, these were only shown to the jury. But as far as what I could see of Diddy's demeanor today, still the same old. It doesn't seem that he feels maybe nervous or anxious. But again, we're never inside his mind, so we don't know 100% for sure what he's thinking at all times.
We got a old Hollywood angel says, can you tell Elizabeth we call her Queen Elizabeth? So again, you're getting a ton of praise from all of our fans. Elizabeth,
I think the government was doing what they could do with these voice messages. It wasn't necessarily like a mic drop moment, but it also could be depending on how you look at it. So when you're hearing Diddy on these audio messages asking for $5,000, $10,000, making sure that Jane has $15,000, it's a lot of money that's just being casually...
By the way, it's also very interesting. Diddy upped the money a lot by the time he started fucking with Jane Doe, right? Obviously, that's Daphne Joy. Give me 1 second. I wanted to look on Daphne Joy. She didn't block us, did she? Daphne Joy. Okay, I keep spelling her name wrong. Daphne Joy. She's been like radio silent, huh? Yeah, no more videos, no nothing. Okay. I wonder if her and Cassie has talked, right? No, she claims she was triggered by reading the Cassie stuff. I wonder if she's talked to Cassie.
Talked about during these audio messages, and even when you kind of hear his demeanor on these audio notes, because, you know, obviously we who have been covering this case, we know what Diddy sounds like, we know his voice, we hear him inside the courtroom sometimes when the jury is not present. However, for most jurors, I would expect that most of them don't really recognize his voice, and maybe I would expect that maybe they don't match it to the person sometimes, especially because as you're hearing it, he's asking for large sums of money. He's asking for medication. He's asking to make sure that he has as much baby oil as he can, because he was like, why am I out here searching for baby oil? Just make sure I have this baby oil here. I shouldn't be doing this. But he was saying it in kind of a joking manner, too, that you really can't tell if he was being kind of serious or if he was being playful and joking. You never just know what they're thinking. But as far as just what the government was doing by playing these particular voice messages, of course, you're hearing about the money being exchanged. You're hearing about, or I shouldn't say exchanged, but about the money being obtained or given to Diddy in some form or fashion. You hear about him asking Christina Quorum, for example, to make sure that the assistant set up the rooms before he gets there. Or you're hearing in just different messages, just things that he would say to Christina Quorum about, get me this, get me that, I need this, please and thank you, here and there. So it could be a bombshell moment depending on how you look at it, but it's interesting just kind of hearing these all play out. Now, there were a good portion of the audio messages that we didn't hear.
I don't like this at all. I wish I could bring my man Joe Tacopina in here. Let's see if I can find it. I'll tell you why, right? So it's like, remember, even if we want to be very general and very liberal to what Diddy, what the government has against Diddy, right? Just follow my train of thought here. Diddy's a violent person. And even if we want to say, yeah, we believe Diddy burnt up Kid Cudi's car. That's one of the predicate acts of RICO, right? let's say we want to believe that Diddy was trying to bribe these people when Diddy was calling a lot after the lawsuit and it was someone that was going to be on a grand jury. That would be technically bribing. Let's say we believe that too, right? By the way, it's still things that I think Diddy's lawyers put up good defenses on both of those, right? Like, how do you know he blew up the car? Like, you know what I mean? Like, how you know, right? But whatever, let's say we believe those. Remember, you need 2 predicate acts to get him on the RICO, and I told you if he gets caught on the RICO, he's done. He's going for 20, right? Here becomes the biggest problem. It's this idea of what the core essential purpose of a RICO is. Conspiracy. So I've said this before, but RICO falls under what conspiracy is. What conspiracy is defined in federal and local statutes is that there is an agreement, an understanding that we're committing a crime. And it doesn't mean that everyone, quote unquote, did the crime. Let's say it's a shooting. But people knew that basically whatever you're doing is to help facilitate the crime, maybe cover up the crime, maybe it could be a bunch of different things, but you're aware of the crime. You're aware, right? You can't be in a conspiracy to commit murder if you had no idea that there's a murder, right? Now, you could be an accessory, and even that comes with some type of understanding and knowledge, right? So it comes back to this. Even if we want to give it to the government, like, you know what? Y'all got the RICO. Y'all proved 2 of these predicate acts. You know, let's say we believe the sex trafficking. Say, all right, you prove sex trafficking, you prove arson, you prove bribery, you prove kidnapping, right? They only need 2, whatever. Pick your favorite 2. Not really, but you get what I mean. Just pick 2. The idea comes in, who are these other people that are in this enterprise, which that's another thing, the enterprise. You need something what's called the enterprise because, again, there's basic conspiracy that doesn't require an enterprise, okay? But when you go to RICO, RICO is racketeering, influence, corrupt organizations. So you need these entities, or could be a shell company that's operating like it's legit, but it's doing illegal stuff or facilitating illegal stuff. So this idea we have to believe is that Bad Boy is the corrupt organization and they're facilitating Diddy doing these crimes. Now, this is where again, I'm looking at it from my perspective. Maybe jury will look at it differently. I just keep asking the same question. If nobody is saying that they felt they were a part of this. Now, granted, I think the government's case is going to be Christina Karam was a part of it. But then I think the good question is like, well, if she's a part of it, why isn't she charged? And why isn't she on the stand either snitching on him or she's not sitting right next to him in cuffs? So who are these people that were, because all the assistants claim they weren't really a part of it. They're like, yeah, we would get them money, but we didn't really know what it's for. If you can't be a part of this RICO as like a co-conspirator or part of this conspiracy if you don't have no fucking clue that that's what you're doing. These people are assistants that they work for every celebrity, or not they, but assistants help every celebrity. And they do things that maybe those celebrities will do a crime with it, right? Yo, you just get me a kitchen knife. You take the kitchen knife, stab somebody. The assistant doesn't fucking know about that. You get what I'm saying? So it's like, that's becoming like, that's like the hard thing about, I'm trying to see it here, which, by the way, I love watching Taco Pina on, wait, I thought he spoke about this recently. He's on his TMZ
Payday,
show.
and the compensation you're hoping for is going to make you rich, and your definition of this is money, and I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Armand, do you think the prosecutors made headway this week?
I feel like they did good with Bono. I think that they did good with showing the.
This is 2 weeks ago, and this was the thing with the Bono person who claims they got dangled off the balcony. Somebody said, did I hear about the Tyler Perry lawsuit? It was wild. Yeah, we covered this. Chat, you guys got to sign up for Kick because there's at times, like, unless I have a long stream, I'll just go only live on Kick. You know, we went live on Kick and we went through. It was bullshit. Like that Tyler Perry. Like I'm gonna save y'all all. There's a bunch of wild stuff. Like Tyler Perry was trying to fuck one of the guys who played gay characters. Like he didn't even fuck him. Like Tyler Perry didn't even fuck the guy. Tyler Perry, like again, I'm not even sitting here to defend a bunch of bots, but like he didn't fuck a guy. Yo, he was lightly flirting with him. It's like, yo, what's up, bro? Like, you know, yo, you deserve, like, yo, you need a guy, like, we're not even talking about some Diddy shit. Like, this was the lightest. Tyler Perry's a freaky nigga, or he clearly was attracted to the dude, and the dude was playing up to it. And then it's kind of weird, I guess. I know, listen, equality for everyone, but it is kind of weird watching a guy claim that, yo, he said he woke up one time and Tyler Perry was in a bed with him. And I'm like, wait. As a grown man, like, you allow that to happen and keep working with this guy and kept sending him smiley face and text messages, like, and I guess it's this idea which everybody has this excuse, like, oh, well, I didn't want to lose my job. I could, like, you know, have bills. Okay, so let a man wake up with a hard dick right next to you and supposedly is sending you messages that he wants to fuck you, even though he doesn't say it directly, but he's kind of flirting heavy, and you never say nothing about it, and you only wait till you get fired years after, and then you want to sue. It's like, bruv, okay, we believe you. You're right. Get the fuck on out of here, okay? Get your ass on out of here. Come on, this is getting too far now. I don't believe that Tyler Perry shit one bit, okay? This is a salty ass motherfucker who literally, you could tell, he knew he had no talent. Tyler Perry told him, yo, don't tell nobody on set that I fuck with you, because they're going to treat you differently, like you didn't deserve to be here. He didn't deserve to be there. So again, you know, I don't even feel passionate about some shit about like some two gay dudes trying to get it in, but it's like, bruv, like this is getting to be enough is enough. Enough is motherfucking enough, right? Anyway. Oh, and then I'll cover the Fat Joe trial, or not Fat Joe trial, the Fat Joe civil case. Remind me with that. There's a bunch of shit in there, a bunch of allegations, wild allegations. I guess it has a little bit more depth to it because the guy used to be Fat Joe's hype man for years. I don't know. Anyway, let me play this for a little bit. I got to go grab my Chick-fil-A chat and I'll come back. Give me a second.
The $100,000 payoff to me, I think that they did good showing the proof of the funds of $20,000 being deposited in his account and returned, things like that. I think that they did an amazing job with the audio and visual forensic analysts. When they showed the audio and video forensic, and they were proving that, hey, this file was corrupted, but it wasn't corrupted because of a said person corrupted the file. It was just because it was transferred over and downloaded. And in fact, this is actually what happened. I feel like the defense was trying to say, hey, it wasn't as bad as it seems. It just was sped up. And so when we saw it put together and he explained why frames were dropping and why timestamps weren't adding up, it was very clear that Diddy beat her and dragged her. And I think the most important part for the people that didn't really want to understand the forensics of it all, the strategy in every time we talk about it, just in case you think you might be getting headway, Diddy, we're going to play this video back and remind everybody that's emotionally charged that you yanked and grabbed and kicked this woman. So whether, you know, everybody's not a lawyer, everybody doesn't care about legal jargon, everybody up there in the jury is not worried about that. They're going to make their decision based off their feelings too. So you see that girl get yoked up, kicked, stepped on, you're going to be like, that dude's a monster, put him away. And I think that they did a great job by keep presenting that to everyone today.
Joe, that's got to be the point here, which is that, yeah, you can look at the charges, but if the jury just hates him for what they see, they're going to convict him.
That's why they played this tape, I think, a dozen times now. It's not, honestly, this is a domestic assault, a grotesque domestic assault, but he's not charged with domestic assault here. They played that. Look, all you need to do is play the tape once if you want to make a point that it somehow aids the proof of the racketeering or the sex trafficking or whatever you think it ties into. But playing it so many times, first of all, I think it begins to neutralize it a little bit. First of all. Second of all, it's so clear that what they're doing, I mean, most of the evidence in this case surrounds the visual evidence, surrounds this tape. Now they have a guy to break down the tape. I mean, we saw the tape once, twice, 5 times. It's the same thing. Whatever angles you're looking at, he's a horrific guy.
Hey, Joe, you know some additional value of the tape?
I'm saying, I think this tape is them trying to do exactly what I said they're going to do from the get-go.
We know what you're saying, Joe. I just want to ask, can I ask you something? Can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question?
Okay, please.
Is it possible? Thank you, Dave. it possible that the tape?
Chat, it's hotter than the devil's asshole outside right now in Jersey. This is crazy. This is like 97. Crazy as fuck.
Also goes to prove those on the jury that might be thinking like you and Bill Maher, she could have left. Are they showing the tape to show what happens when she tries to leave, when she grabs her shit and tries to discreetly sneak out of the hotel room? If she gets yoked up, as Armand said, kicked in the damn back, messed up, beat up, and horrified? Could it be going to show that?
Ebony, yes, it could be to show that. And that's what they will argue. That
I appreciate it.
I don't know if this was during a freak off or not. That's the one thing that's still a little. It was, okay. So that's Ebony, you're 100% right. That's what they're going to argue.
So wait, Joe, are you saying I know a little bit about the law too? Do I know a little bit about the law?
Listen, even a broken clock works twice a day, Ebony. Even a broken clock works twice a day.
As Armand says Armand brings up a really good point about the jury. They are not lawyers. They are not this panel. They're not Bill Maher. They're not exposed to this stuff day in and day out like we all are. But I will say this. I think I saw the other day the filing for the jury instructions, and they're about 135 pages. I've seen jury instructions in my day, and they are not usually that long. But you can bet your bottom dollar that the summations are going to be so specific, and that jury instruction is going to take them probably the first couple of days of deliberation.
Brian, what was the jury's reaction to what they heard this week?
Well, the real time to take the temperature is when the white noise fills the courtroom and they're having a sidebar, because that's when you see the jurors start to interact with each other. And Armand and I are sitting in different sides of the courtroom, but we're looking at them, and some of them are raising their eyebrows, others are reacting. The judge has said, don't talk about the case, but are they talking about the Mets? Are they talking about, traffic in Midtown Manhattan? No, they're probably talking about what they have just seen while they're killing time on these sidebars. But even during Bonna's testimony, and even before that, when they were playing the video from the Intercontinental, all of these jurors had their sights focused on the monitors, and they were watching like this. I don't know, Armand, maybe you saw it as well. They were keenly keyed in on what they were seeing, especially as Diddy was being violent toward Cassie.
What was Diddy's demeanor in court this week?
This week, to me, he seemed a little bit more chipper. Like, he seemed like, all right, I feel like I'm making headway, especially coming off of the heels of Mia, which, by the way, I think was probably one of the worst testimonies for the prosecution. But I think he seemed a little bit more confident. He seems, when he walks in the courtroom, he's smiling, he's speaking to the people now, he's doing hard hands at everybody. So, and then to me, there's also moments where I feel like he's seen this so many times, he knows what people are going to say. So he's a little numb to the testimonies. Now, when it gets too crazy, he does a little shake here and there, but for the most part, I think he kind of tunes it out a little bit.
But guys, also, wasn't he, I get the impression just reading up on every motion, and I say physical motion, not legal motion. Every one of his physical motions seems to be like a whiny little bitch, meaning when something isn't going right up on the stand, he starts to shake his head like crazy or push himself out from defense table. And then when somebody says something fawning, like, yeah, I looked up to him, I learned a lot from him, he nods his head excessively so as to show the people behind him that's right. And it almost sounds like that becomes cloying and obnoxious, and that the jurors will see through that.
Well, Diddy almost got kicked out of the courtroom towards the end of the week, and that's because the judge had spotted him nodding, winking, and smiling at members of the jury. The judge told Mark Agnifilo for his client to cut it out, or there would be serious repercussions, including possibly having Diddy removed. Meantime, we're all talking about Jane and her appearance on the witness stand. It was very clear that she fell in love very quickly with Diddy, that he swept her off of her feet, was paying for her life on both coasts of the United States, flying her all over down to the islands for exotic vacations, that she initially found the hotel nights or rendezvous with these escorts to be taboo, that was enjoyable. But that quickly deteriorated, and she was done with it. In fact, she not only told Diddy verbally, but she sent him letters and texts to that effect that she did not want to be having sex with other men.
A few months ago, I spoke with Mark Agnifilo, Diddy's lead lawyer, about the possibility of Diddy taking the stand. Here's what he said. It's really interesting.
I don't know that I could keep him off the stand. I think he is very eager to tell his story.
This nigga, I don't know what this guy was doing. He just fucked up he fucked up the whole pre-trial part of the case. Of course, Diddy's not taking a stand.
story. And I think he will tell every part of his story, including
unless he was trying to throw. I think he was trying to throw off the prosecutor.
What you see on the video. So I expect it's going to be explained by the both of us.
Joe, I think Mark Agnifilo is a great lawyer. I think that's crazy talk. I do not see any version of Diddy being cross-examined where it helps the defense.
0% chance he takes a stand. That cross-examination, we'll be here till Christmas with this trial, with the cross-examination, because he'd have to answer questions about all of his conduct, the car bombing stuff, the Kid Cudi thing, the dangling off a balcony, the drugs, the this, the that, the cut in the head, the cut in the back, the bruising. The hallway video will take 2 days alone just to cross him on. There is no scenario, and I listen, I'm not there, okay? But if I were there, I'd lock his hands down because you can't put him up. You just can't put him up. There's too many questions he'd have to answer. He's not going to come out looking well.
And Joe,
and this
also,
is a reasonable doubt. Hold on. This is a reasonable doubt case, right? You have a situation where, look, they're telling the story now on the stand. They've said things that are inconsistent in the past. Some of their conduct is not consistent with their on-trial testimony. You know, a reasonable doubt is not just he probably committed the crime. It's not, I think he committed the crime. It's not, I'm almost certain he committed the crime, Harvey. It's, I have no reason to doubt he committed the crime. That's a very high standard. And you have to deliver a reasonable doubt summation like I did in the Rocky case, real strong here. But putting him up on the stand takes away from all the deficiencies in the prosecution's case, takes away from all the inconsistent statements you caught all the witnesses in. All of that goes by the wayside. It all comes down to, was Diddy lying about anything or not? Because if the jury finds out that the defendant lied, game,
that was
set,
very
and
sly
match,
of you to
over.
say that. I have no reason to doubt. That is not what reasonable doubt is. It's a reasonable doubt, meaning you can jump a chasm. You just can't jump a very big chasm. But I'm going to say this about
in the charge. It's reasonable doubt. So if you have a doubt based on a
you
reason,
said I have
you must
no
acquit.
reason to doubt. That's different.
Right, that's called a
no
reasonable
reason
doubt. If you wrong, I've done this 120 times now.
I rock with my dude over here.
In jury trials, if you have a doubt based on a reason, right? You can't.
These like TV lawyers. I don't know why they argue with the nigga who just got ASAP Rocky, you know what I mean, free. When ASAP literally had the gun, you know what I mean, busting at that nigga, right?
A doubt that's not based on a reason, obviously, Ashley. But if you have a doubt based on a reason, that's called a reasonable doubt. And you must
reasonable
acquit.
doubt,
You must
not
acquit.
no reason to doubt. It's different. But let me say this about Diddy taking the stand. The other reason he can't possibly take the stand, and I think, Joe, you've had clients like this. I've seen people like this. I think we've all come into contact with people like this. People who have a king complex, who can be triggered like that into anger. This man needs at least 2 to 3 decades of anger management. So just one female prosecutor who gets under his skin just a little too long, and you're going to see the real Diddy who slammed on Cassie's door before he slammed on her face and slammed on her arms and slammed on her legs and slammed on everybody. Allegedly.
Ashley,
can I ask you guys this, though? If you don't take this stand...
One second, Roman.
Okay.
You're right about the king complex, about his personality being so strong. I will tell you this, and because I did spend time with him. The person today is a very different individual than the person back then. Back then, and I think this is going to be a big part of the defense case, he was so jerked up on every drug possible. He was always out of his mind. He's a little bit of a different human being today. I will tell you that. And it doesn't clear up or it doesn't forgive what he did. I'm not trying to say that. But I'm just saying, I think on the stand, you're not going to see that person who you see in the hallway video. I don't think you're going to see that. But still, I think it's an impossible situation for him to get up there. Because
go ahead, Armand, and then I have a point. Go ahead, Armand.
Okay, I just want to ask a question to you guys because you guys are the experts at this. So for me, I'm wondering, could it be as simple as if I'm not guilty, I'm going to take the stand? If I'm fighting for my life, why not take the stand? Because not taking the stand in the eyes, it could be like, all right, you are guilty. You're just hoping that the juries don't see that.
Yeah, that's the Tory Lanez point. And I think Tory Lanez, again, in hindsight, you're probably always going to say you should have taken a stand when you get found guilty. But at least I think Tory could have explained some shit, especially, I know it's not a self-defense case, which I've said before, but it was a case that was a very involved situation where there were multiple fights and arguments, and Tory was supposedly trying to defuse. So it's like, if you're not the person who is the aggressor, why don't you just tell us the truth, right? So maybe Tory could take the stand in this type of shit. Hell no.
That, right?
No, it doesn't work the way
Joe, let me get in here for 1 second, Joe. 1 second. Here's the thing. I don't think that amongst us in this conversation, there's much debate about the lack of wisdom of Sean Combs getting on that stand. I think we more or less agree. But here's what we also know for sure, ladies and gentlemen. It ain't up to a single damn one of those defense lawyers. It is up to who? Sean Combs himself. And I think Ashley makes a fantastic point when she brings up the King complex. Not only is he a trigger hair away from exploding on the stand, I think to Armand's point, I could see him, even in a more sober mind, Joe, feeling I'm 55 years old and a billionaire because I'm a great storyteller. I've been able to tell my people as Black community members, I've been able to tell a global society that I am a connoisseur of all things wonderful, luxurious, and fabulous. And if I could sell and build $1 billion brand on narrative, let me take my ass on that stand and tell my story, tell the story of my life. And I think that could be the ideology of Sean Combs.
It brings me back to O.J. Simpson. That O.J. Simpson, hours after he flew back to Los Angeles, was advised, do not talk to the police. O.J. Simpson, who has got away with a lot in his life before that, figured he could talk his way out. And he went to the police station and he sat down with the 2 lead detectives because he wanted to. And he believed he could do it. And I think Diddy is cut from the same cloth. I really do,
You're going to have
guys.
7 lawyers, though, Harvey. 7 lawyers are going to be looking at him saying, you are going to kill yourself. You're crazy. It's a suicide mission. You're in good shape.
I hope he doesn't.
Right now.
But the arrogance is going to get him on that stand.
Screw it up.
Now,
He's not testifying,
you're right,
guys.
but they
anyone
can't
wants to put
handcuff
some
him.
money on this,
They
give me a
can't
call.
handcuff him.
You can't, but he's not testifying. He doesn't want to put himself in jail for the rest of his life either.
Okay, we are closing in on the end of the prosecution's.
Okay, so we are again here. So much, like pretty much we're at the end of the case, but so much more we still have to try to hold on.
Having that important.
So much we have to kind of still so many hurdles to get across before we actually get to the verdict here. Sorry, let me just look at this. Did they take lunch officially? Okay. Garrigo says, all right, blah, 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 that was charged up. Almost done. I said, please stop it here. They're trying to put some more stuff. Do you see an account transfer for $22,000? Yes. Okay, it was transportation. Okay. Some stuff with Cabral and Jane. And it says, could you move the cursor up? Some other stuff for some money. 324, 760. Okay. Diddy's passing a note to Nicole Westmoreland. And so let's get to page 96. Sean Combs' bank account records total $74,000. He says, is there an account transfer to LCC? So this is, could we have a moment? We need one more video, then we're done. The one that wasn't working this morning, could we turn off the attorney screens? All right. Does the charge represents every text message in this case? No. Let's pull up this before the date. Okay. Then they have a sidebar. They come back. In this time frame, do you see any message between Jane Doe and Mr. Combs that were sexual or affectionate in nature? No. No further questions. Okay, so it looks like give me a second. Okay. So it looks like Garagos had rested on the cross, and then AOSA comes back and they just kind of hammer home the point by saying, yo, all the messages you reviewed, agent, did you see anything that were sexual and affectionate in nature? No. No further questions. The juror leaves. Comey says, we have essentially rested. We only may want to move for a few corrections. Ignifilo says, are you ready to move? Shapiro says, we want to move under Rule 29, which I think, we could, we know what that is at this point. It's a directed verdict. Let's see.
Welcome to Time Audio.
Okay.
Enjoy.
This Rule 29A governs amicus filings during a court's initial consideration of a case on the merits. 2. When permitted, the United States or its officer or agency or estate may file an amicus curiae brief without the consent of the parties or leave of court. Any other amicus curiae.
Okay, this is too. Here we go.
We want to bring in now Miami or in Fort Pierce.
president appointed the judge.
This also happened in President Trump's case.
Who will be overseeing this case, circuit. And that 3-judge panel of the 11th Circuit included 2 Trump appointees, which I mentioned just to say she was really outside the bounds of conservative legal thought in that ruling. So how much of a difference could she make? Everything from a legal headache to substituting her own judgment and ultimately dismissing the case, Lilia, which is something you asked me about before. And she controls everything from the schedule of this case, of the jury. After the prosecution has completed its case, before the jury reaches a verdict, she can say there's not enough evidence here. And if she makes that decision, it's not appealable. It's not reviewable. So that would be huge. I'm not saying that it's likely, but she has a lot of power. It matters.
Okay, so, they're talking about another case, but Rule 29, which, we're getting to understand that is super standard now, that a defense team is usually going to say after the prosecutor rests his case, hey, wait, that's it? That's what you wasted all this time for and resources, and you got our guy on federal charges for this? Judge, we're going to move for a Rule 29, motion for Rule 29, which is going to state that if you find that the evidence presented by the prosecution was not enough for the charges that to substantiate the charges, you won't even let the jurors go think about it. You're going to tell them, hey, I want you guys to return a verdict saying this, okay? And essentially there's no deliberation because they'll just do what the judge says. There's another rule I forgot where the judge could actually decline the finding or the jury verdict. However, usually that's not as popular as this one, where you just direct you do a directed verdict, right? So, yeah.
That motion is granted. If the jury is impaneled, you know what? I've heard the evidence. People are going to start hearing more about. And it allows federal judges, if there is a motion by the defense, which there always is, to say, you know what, I've heard the evidence and there's no need for the jury to deliberate in this case.
That's Rule 29.
And so depending on when that motion is granted, if the jury is impaneled but has not reached a verdict and the prosecution has completed its case, if she says there's not enough here, I've been sitting here, I've heard the prosecution's whole case, and she throws that out, that is not a reviewable decision, meaning...
So that's interesting. That's not something that could be appealed. Now, we do think that that's going to be very... It's a long shot for that to happen in this particular case. I think that, even if you believe that Diddy is innocent or will get found innocent, they have tried to throw a lot of shit that they're hoping to stick to the wall. And I think it'll be enough that a jury should think about it rather than the judge saying, fuck that, you don't need to think about it. This shit is pretty much a dub, right? Okay, so they're moving for Rule 29. And Shapiro says on count 1, Mr. Combs is entitled to a judgment of acquittal. The requirements of RICO have not been met. They have not shown the agreement to violate RICO. Remember, I told you that. RICO is a conspiracy. How the hell we all commit a crime, but nobody agreed to commit a crime? So, again, the idea of the enterprise and some tacit understanding of that there's crime going on, all of the people who testify, the witnesses, why am I losing my train of thought here? The assistants, not one of them said, oh, I knew we were doing crime. Now, some of them did say, well, getting drugs, we knew were a crime. But none of them thought they were facilitating sex trafficking. Not one of them thought they were doing that, right? Shapiro says the enterprise is more than a group of people. The enterprise's purpose here is to map onto the racketeering case, sex trafficking, etc. See the Boyle case. A structural feature of a RICO enterprise, a hub and a spoke, the rim. This is a rimless hub. Shapiro says there's insufficient proof to establish that this 20-year-long conspiracy has been going on with additional help from people because there was an enterprise. Mr. Combs did not conspire with another person. They say he had an inner circle of bodyguards, but they failed to show it. No bodyguards even testified. There's only thin proof that they even engaged in crime. either on the behalf of Diddy or with Diddy, right? Shapiro says at most these are personal quantities of drug. They also use a lot of Astroglide, baby oil, and drink, some that were drugs. Jonathan Perez says hotel nights were personal time with the female. It's personal time. Brendan Paul said it was hotel for the nights. David James said he saw a naked man in a hotel room, but thought that wasn't part of the job. The sex with Cassie and Jane sometimes involved other third parties, but they weren't booked by the staff. It brought them closer. It was booked by his girlfriends, who they admitted it brought them closer to Diddy by setting up these freak-offs that he could have fun. Okay. Shapiro, see, this is where Shapiro is going to do her thing. She was going to do her thing. Okay. So this Rule 29 thing is going to... They're going to argue it out, I think. Let me see. I don't see anyone like that's kind of arguing about this Rule 29 thing. Let's see this.
Tracks.
Diddy Combs sex trafficking case. The prosecution is expected to rest today. And then we do expect defense counsel to put on a very short case, not calling any witnesses, but rather just reading some evidence into the record. Then we expect defense counsel to rest. Jurors also viewed text messages Jane sent to a sex worker in which she expressed a desire to get together. The last government witness will return to the stand today, Special Agent Cerciello. Cross will conclude and then redirect. He has been testifying about the accuracy of charts detailing dozens of sexual encounters involving Jane, Combs, and escorts. While he was on the stand, those sex videos were also played for the jury, and also jurors viewed texts that Sean Combs sent to his employees discussing flights for the escorts as well as hotel options. We also heard Sean's voice audio messages he made to assistants like Christina Quorum and others were played for the jury, in which he is discussing those hotel nights. And Julie, talking about timing here on Wednesday, we expect that charge conference to take place. And then on Thursday, the closing arguments. Both sides have indicated that they expect to take 4 hours each. Proceedings get back underway at 9 a.m. Eastern. That's the latest from here in Lower Manhattan. Julie, we'll send it back to you.
All right, thanks to Kelly Craft for that early update. So let's talk about the Diddy defense team decision. How about that alliteration right there? To not call any witnesses. What does that say to you? We got a great power panel standing by. Let me bring them in now. In the studio with me, so happy to have former district attorney, current criminal defense attorney in the private sector, Matthew Mangino. Joining me remotely, I have former prosecutor and professor at Florida International University. She's the director of prosecution projects there, Melba Pearson, and the former co-host of the Hot 97 morning show. Diddy used to come on her show, Lisa G. Good morning to you all. All right, so this decision not to call any witnesses, what does that say to us? Lisa G., would you start us off, please?
I knew you were going to come to me, Julie. When I heard that yesterday, just a reminder, I'm not an attorney, I'm a radio personality. When I heard the defense was not bringing up any witnesses, I said, this guy is toast. That's it. He's guilty. He's going to jail. That was my honest thought the second I heard it. I don't think he has a chance.
And you, Lisa, you got two sensational former prosecutors here on the panel with you. I'm sure they're in agreement, perhaps, with that decision. So let's get it. Matt Mangino in the studio with me. Your thoughts on that, please.
Well, it was a surprise. We had heard about a pretty substantial list of witnesses. Then it was pruned down a bit. Now it's not at all. At first blush, I see confidence on the defense part because, we have racketeering, we have sex trafficking, and we know Diddy's not a good guy. I mean, that's clear. The defense has conceded that he's not a good guy. But is he guilty of racketeering? Is he guilty of sex trafficking? Those are the issues. And I think this comes down to, and I'm sure we're going to hear a lot about it in the argument from the defense, consent. Were these willing participants? Did they want to be there? Of course, he's abusive, but that's not the charge here. It's sex trafficking, racketeering, and promoting prostitution.
Right, yeah, big distinction there, yeah. Melba Pearson, last but certainly not least on this panel, your thoughts on what this is signaling with the Diddy team?
Yeah, so good morning, everyone, and special good morning to Lisa G, Hot 97 all day. But having to do with the defense's decision not to call any witnesses, I'm actually not surprised, because really, who are you going to call that's not going to be really an improper character witness? And I think the defense did a good enough job in their cross-examinations of the prosecution witnesses to be like, well, this text message might show that there was consent, and this text message was loving, and you were a former employee of Diddy's. You still have warm feelings for him, right? You don't hate him, right? And enough assistants got on the stand and said, yes, the time was complicated, but I still have warm feelings, et cetera, et cetera. So the defense is going to use those nuggets to be able to say, listen, yes, he's a horrible boyfriend, but he is not guilty of these other charges. But again, the prosecution really laid the foundation and all the building blocks are there. The key, and I'm going to keep saying this over and over again, the prosecution is going to have to lip sync for their life. I mean, they need to give the closing of all closings to be able to really show the jury, like, listen, this, I know you're thinking racketeering means mobster. This is what it means in this instance, and really take their hands and walk them down the path to a guilty verdict. But if they don't do it in closing, it's not going to happen. Everything rises and falls on their closing argument, pulling it all together.
Yeah, I love what you just said there, Melba. Thank you for that. Is simplifying it. They really need to make it simple, because I think anybody, even for lawyers, because let's be honest, there are so many different kinds of lawyers, and, unless you have experience, trying a...
Now, I wasn't on when this came out, but there is an exhibit that came out. Did y'all see the exhibit that was released that shows Cassie being confronted by Diddy about cheating with Alex, the trainer? Check this out. So Diddy, she texts Diddy. She says, yo, I don't owe you shit. You owe me. Diddy says, deal with that, and we're done. Y'all ain't playing me. Remember, he just found out that the trainer's smashing his girl. And she says, and you ain't playing me. He says, we're about to have a big problem, because all you do is harass me for shit that's wrong. Then he says, or she says, no, we will, no matter what. You've pushed me too far. So it looks like the relationship is devolving at this point. We can see the date on it. October 19, 2018. Looked like she's kind of low-key threatening Diddy, like, oh, I could go out and tell people what you've done to me if you don't let me move on with this guy, or if you don't forgive for me cheating on you with this guy, like we could both be messy. So I guess she's almost starting to realize. Remember, Diddy always used to be like, yo, I'm about to put out these videos against you. Look like Diddy's now confronting her, and she's saying, Diddy, I could go say some shit about you. Listen to what Diddy says. You already ran a scam on me with Kerry. You pushed me too far. I'm telling you to deal with it. Deal with it. We don't got a problem. But no, it will be dealt with today. Let me, you, and him get together, right? Diddy was always down for meetups, right? Said, I hired you him to train you, not to hang out with you and for you to become his friend. Someone is giving my money back, and y'all could have each other. So Diddy, like, his demeanor is, oh, word, I hire him to train you for the freak offs, and now that's your friend? All right, I need my money back. Now we get to find out how much money. It says, why did you have to do that with someone I was paying for? Anything more than that is disrespectful, and he disrespected me. Then I think he sends a broken heart emoji. He's basically saying, remember, Diddy's a cuck, but Diddy's like, yo, why you gotta fuck this guy? Right? Like, I'm paying for him. Then she says blocked. And then he says, do you think that was right? She says, I just told you I didn't. So it's like she's admitting that she fucked the guy. But she's like, nah, like, yeah, I made mistakes, but you made mistakes too. We've been toxic. It's like when a relationship is really devolved. So she's admitting to some of the fucked up shit she does, but she's gaslighting too. She's like, well, yeah, I know that wasn't right, but think about all the shit you did that wasn't right, right? And she said, and you're wrong. I've been telling you, and now I'm done. And then Diddy says, I will handle with him. Are you going to give me my money back though? Right? Then here's another thing. She says trust. Diddy says, what does that have to do with you fucking the trainer? Is that your justification? It's foul. You can't admit that. And I'm tired of you threatening me. So remember, it looks like she was threatening him at this point. Like, yo, listen, I could go and tell everybody what you did to me now. What's poppin'? Because remember, Diddy used to threaten her with leaking the videos. He says, I need you to fix this. And you're the one with the threats. And I'm not releasing anything. Meaning the videos. I ain't releasing anything. You're threatening me. And I'm letting you know it goes both ways. She says, well, hit him then. I ain't got nothing to do with it. So Cassie's wiping her hands clean with it like, yo, all right, fuck it. You go hit up the trainer. You go get whatever you want. And then she says, done. Right? And then Diddy says, how are you comparing her to a trainer I paid for? So it looked like she must have called Diddy. They're arguing. And she probably threw some woman in Diddy's face. Pause. Like, how you mad about another nigga when I just caught you with Gina? I just caught you with blah, 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 blah. You know how it is. So he's texting her. He's like, yo, how are you comparing her to a trainer that I paid for? And then she says, fucking Kerry's friend ass nigga. Fuck you. So she's trying to gaslight him like, nah, you can't get mad at me about no trainer. Like, you've been fucking all my friends. How you gonna fuck Kerry's friend? What the hell? So she's just like, it's one of those toxic joints, right? Diddy says, so now you want to hurt me because you fucked the trainer? All right, release the videos then too. Fuck it. Then she says, I didn't. Stop accusing me. Release what videos? You're a lunatic and I'm done. And no, I didn't pay for that bitch. I didn't pay that bitch for her services. But, so I guess she's saying, I know you're mad because you're saying you paid this guy to train me and we fucked. Okay, cool. I guess I didn't pay this other bitch that you fucked, but that's Kerry's friend, right? So I guess he fucked Kerry's friend. But I've had her back. I've had her blacklisted as a fake ass model. And then she says, like, beyond. Now, you have it at a point, everyone's going to know exactly who you are and what you've done if they don't already. So she's threatening Diddy again. So Diddy says, let him know that as a man, he needs to deal with that. I'll let him know. You have this shit real messy. I refuse to let a white boy that I paid to train you fuck you. You let everyone know that I fucked with Gina. And everyone will know you fucked with Alex. Then she says, I'm telling you, you're wrong. So she's kind of gaslighting him. Like, looked like she was telling Diddy, like, yeah, we're friends, but like, we ain't fucking. And Diddy could see through it. Like, no, y'all fucked. And then Diddy says, why did you have to know that? Knowing I was paying for it. Damn, why? You could tell. That's hurt. That's hurt. That's hurt. That's hurt. That's hurt. He's hurt. He's hurt. Cassie then says, but I'll make sure that your lawyer receives pictures of my face and my body every time you beat me up. And then he says, I really advise that y'all address it. Please. Thank you. I want my money. I'm getting the invoices ready from Jamal. Then she says, I told you I didn't hook up with him in the house. I don't know what you're talking about. Seriously, you owe me my face when I almost lost it a few times. So if you don't want no problems, you can leave me alone. So Diddy's telling her, yo, all the money I paid for this guy to train you, I want back. I need that back immediately. You disrespected me. You fucking with a guy who's the help. I'm good. I'm not dealing with this. She's telling Diddy, I never fucked this guy in the crib. I never did that. So essentially, she's not really denying she fucked him. She's just saying it wasn't like on some disrespectful shit at the crib that you're paying for, right? Or while he's like working. So, but she's like, yo, if you don't leave me alone, I'm gonna have to expose you too. Diddy says, whether it was at the house or his or at a hotel, I was still paying for him. Do you think that's right? So then he asked, so where did you hook up with him at? And then he continued to ask, he said, do you think that was right, that I was paying for the trainer that you were hooking up with wherever? And she says, you are so wrong. Then it continues. She sends a message. It says, another one bites the dust, Burning Man. And Diddy says, you wasn't paying for her, right? Which girl is this? Is this Cassie? Which girl is this? Or is this Gina? Might have been Gina, right? Yeah, I guess it's Gina. And Diddy's saying to her, you weren't paying for Gina. I was paying for this cat. And I want all my money back. You gonna let two cornballs play me? And how are you even comparing the two? I have this man, what? Deal with that. You can fuck whoever you want. But the person I was paying for, that me and you and him need to remedy that. So let him know I will be in contact. And I think, and now he starts bringing in the parents into it. Says, tell your mother and father about it, or I definitely will. I was paying $50,000 for this nigga. Then 18 for you and Carrie. And you both fucked me in both ways. Fucking foul. I promise you will get nothing coming back to you for karma. I was paying for this. And you won't even come clean. You are evil. So it's kind of interesting because Diddy seems really hurt. So Diddy wouldn't care that all these other men would fuck Cassie. But he seems really fucking hurt. That, did I tell y'all that this little chat? I said, Diddy cared a lot if someone in his industry fucked her. And his last straw was when she fucked with the trainer. You can't fuck with the help. Come on. You get what I'm saying? He says, I promise you to get none of your karma. I was paying for this. And you won't even come clean. You're so evil. See, I just saw something on Instagram about it. I'll forward it to you. You should get your publicist on this, right? Diddy says, oh, and yeah, tell her send Alex the invoices. And then he says, and then your friend extorted me. You really got a foul, evil thing going on. Please stay away from me. You go out your way and I'll go mine. No problem. God bless you. For real. I pray for your karma don't hit you more than it is now. Because you're a piece of work on the low. Girl, you got everyone fooled. Good for you. Hope it continues to work for you. Love. Number blocked. Love. Then you could tell. This shit was tearing a hole through Diddy. I could tell. The nigga says he blocks her. 5 hours later, he unblocks her to send something else. Chat, you know one of them ones? You block her, but you ain't finished getting off your chest. You got to unblock her and get your shit off. Say, yo, you did me so dirty. Yo, I spent $50,000 on this cat. Are you going to do the right thing and reimburse me? I need to know how you think you and him going to play me like this. He giving me back my money himself.
So the Diddy and Cassie situation is getting freakier and freakier by the day. The more and more I hear about these allegations, Diddy is a freaky man, the king of the freak-offs. And Cassie, you feel me, she was young, vulnerable. But like what Ak said, she could have left. Like, Diddy was not holding her well. You know, this is what's hard for me. Allegedly, Diddy wasn't holding her hostage, but she said on the video that came out in the hotel where he hit her over and drug her back, she was trying to leave one of the freak-offs. And Diddy said, oh no, you're not going to leave the freak-offs. You got it. Yeah. Wait till the dude busts a nut, allegedly. Then all over you, then scrape it off, go in the other room and rub it on my nipples. That's what he wanted. It sounds so crazy to say, but that's what Diddy wanted. Like, we seen him in the robe. I thought he was just fresh out the shower, but allegedly he was probably butt naked. I'm surprised there was no baby oil on her or him, or she wiped it off. That's why he was so mad. It was no baby oil on. Hey, man. I genuinely feel bad for Cassie. I feel bad for her husband too, because he has to be in court and he's listening to all these things. And I don't really think Cassie's lying about anything. Like, Cassie just seems like a nice girl, probably like gentle, innocent, like, and she just wanted a career. Like, man, I'm struggling here because I want to be very, very honest about everything, like my point of view. I don't think Diddy was the best of best people, and I think everything he did to Cassie was wrong, and it was definitely manipulative and all that stuff. But like, is it sex trafficking though? Like, this is what he's charged for. Like, domestic violence, yes. Assault, yes. Like, probably a bunch of other crazy stuff, yes. But sex trafficking, bro, I don't know if you could say he was sex trafficking. But it's only day 2 of the trial. And I'm gonna be very, very unbiased about every single thing I say. It's day 2 of the trial. Diddy is he's there every day. They say that he's looking white as hell, he's gray as hell. He's, you feel me? They said he was looking at Cassie the whole time. But day 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, we don't know what's gonna happen. Maybe 2 weeks later, there might be someone else taking the stand, and we don't know how that's gonna go. Maybe like 3 days later, there's gonna be a new person taking the stand, and they just expose everything about Diddy. Like, we don't know fully everything Diddy's done yet. Like, there might have been men that he was having free calls with. Like, I ain't gonna lie, bro. Like, Act was the line about what he said. Diddy should just came out and said that he was a flexible, bro. He should just said he was bisexual, bro. Like, I'm not gonna lie. And what Act said, bro, all these rappers gotta come out who was around Diddy, like really, really hung around Diddy and was like really cool with him. They need to come out and like, yeah, bro. You gotta defend yourself, your integrity. You feel me? But your boy Big Act News. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. And do you feel like Diddy's innocent, or do you feel like he's guilty? And we're talking about sex trafficking. Like, we're not talking about is he a good person or not. Do you think he's guilty of sex trafficking, Cassie? It's your boy Big Act News, and I'm out.